And we're back. Hello there, cartoonists and cartoon lovers, and welcome to the Cartoon Pad. I'm Bob Eckstein with my host, Michael Shaw, and we got our trusty producer, Marty, and we have a special guest who I'm not going to reveal just yet. You could try to guess who it is by her voice. She's gonna join us for the chat, but we'll interview her in a moment. First, I'll ask how everyone's doing. Michael, how was your last 2 weeks?
It's a dream, Bob. It's your dream, and I'm just walking through it. So, thanks, Bob.
Mystery guess.
How
are you doing?
Me? I'm doing okay, guys. Thanks for asking, and I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for having me on your show, The Cartoon Pen. I'm really excited about it.
My guess is Kitty Carlisle.
Oh, to tell the truth, huh? Oh, wait,
to tell the truth
or consequences.
It's not Kitty Carlisle.
I'm not Kitty Carlisle.
Oh, Judy Holliday.
No.
Judy Canova.
But I could use a holiday, actually.
There we go.
But I am a cartoonist and a cartoon lover.
A cartoon lover.
I'm a lover of cartoons. And cartoonists.
Uh-oh. Peter Arno.
I do love Peter Arno. He's great.
No, avoid that guy. He's nothing but trouble.
Really? Well, you guys.
Yeah, we're trouble. We're troubled.
Man. You're fun trouble.
We're the kind of trouble you want to have fun with.
You're the kind of trouble I want to get into. Aha.
I'm afraid this is going from PG.
We've gone off the rails here, Bob.
Okay, sorry about that. I know it's curious.
Bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Okay.
Let me sneak in our producer, Marty, and ask him how he's doing and give a quick hello on that.
I'm fine.
Marty, are you with us?
I'm great. I'm here. I'm curious about your mystery guest that you've been now promoting and inquiring minds want to know, Bob.
Yeah, let's stop the chit chat and let's bring on our guest. She was a senior vice president at a major Madison Avenue ad agency and went on to become a New York Times bestseller and a renowned New Yorker cartoonist. She is also very active as a philanthropist, creating a foundation to help breast cancer patients. And we're going to talk all about the making of her fabulous book, The Big Shebang. The Cartoon Pad welcomes the amazing Marisa Acocella.
Well, thank you for having me, The Cartoon Pad, Bob and Michael. I'm really happy to be here. It's an honor.
We're honored.
No, thank you. This is all really exciting. And we've read the book. I read it twice.
You did?
Kind of, yeah, I
want to quiz you.
Just take it in.
Ask Bob a question right now. Okay, pop quiz.
No, I'm ready.
Who's your favorite saint or goddess?
Well, I'm very interested in a lot of them, especially Pope Joan, because I'll explain why.
Okay.
Because I love the fact that you are balancing and juggling truth with what is the interpretations of all these different Bibles from different religions. And I'm going to try to describe the book, and I want you to correct me and explain to me where I kind of maybe misinterpreted the summary of the book.
Okay.
It's very hard to summarize. It's a very complicated book. It's a very compelling interpretation of a side to all these stories from a side that you feel have been neglected, because this has been always books written by men for men.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have interpretation of the side that you didn't hear before. And to me, you were not trying to come up with fictional stories at all. You were trying to make a strong case of the woman's role throughout history. And the story, the way you tell it, is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's very impressive how you did all of these different goddesses together, because there's so much. It's so complicated. And yet you made a narrative that seems to make a lot of sense to me, but it's not faint at heart. This is really got a lot of meat on the bones.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Bob, speaking of meat on the bones, my favorite personality of all time is the Venus of Willendorf.
She's great, isn't she?
She is sassy. In fact, I have a Venus of Willendorf cartoon I drew, and I'm looking for it, which no one understands, but you might.
Oh my
And I'm-
gosh, I need to see it.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna go find it right now. I have
mhm.
to explain it, but you know, when you have to explain a cartoon, that's part of like, okay, it's over. It never quite gets off the launch pad, but the intent was very sincere, I have to say.
Okay, well, I need to see
So
your.
is the Venus of Willendorf it's the most famous spa in the world, somewhere in Italy. Like it's the Venus of Willendorf who's gone to a spa.
Okay,
So of course she's in fabulous shape.
okay.
So the old ideal of the fecund, you know, very voluptuous Venus is now the ideal of the very fit, trim, and statuesque Venus. So she's been transformed, but she looks a little like a Giacometti.
Oh my gosh, you took the Venus of Willendorf and turned her into a Giacometti?
Yes, she's sort of like the Venus as idealized by Giacometti. So
Okay.
I'm sure you can picture it now.
I can picture it now, but you know what's interesting? In those days, right, the Paleo Venuses, they were all pretty, I mean, they had like hips and they had
Well, that was the
asses and
point.
tits and bellies
Right.
and,
Right.
you know, back then, age and fatness equaled status.
And
right?
fertility.
And fertility, because they were fertility. They were the
Right.
fertility goddesses. And she was the first famous icon of a god or a goddess, right?
Yes.
So, but the idea is like, that is so not patriarchal at all.
Right. And also the ideal now is so different from what it was then.
You think?
Well, as
I'm
far as
kidding.
like,
Well, it's more Giacometti
wait,
now.
not often thinking, but yes. So, okay, Bob, go back. Your turn.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I want you to be able to go back and tell me where I got the summary wrong too. If you
Okay.
feel like I'm misinterpreting anything from what I thought. I mean, I'm curious to know how academia played a role in all of this. If you felt you were getting their support, or if you feel like you have now opened their eyes to certain things, or if you heard from them.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I just heard from a woman who's a professor in Sophia, the goddess Sophia, who is the daughter of the Divine Mother, God the Mother. So I heard from somebody in academia today. I hear from people all the time about this book. I did read about 200 books. I did have an assistant who was studying at Fordham University. And, you know, I did have people helping me. I had another woman who was doing research in Montana. But for the majority of the research, I basically had books that I've been collecting for about 30 years. I've had this idea in the mid 90s. So
Wow. I feel like you should have a PhD in something at this point.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because PhD is becoming an expert in a subject, and you are obviously an expert in this subject of, what would you call your subject?
I
I mean,
the studies in the divine feminine, I guess. I definitely.
that's good. Oh, the divine.
The divine feminine, yeah. But I feel like there are so many stories that have been squelched and sidelined and, you know, maligned. Women have been maligned, unnamed. In the case of God the Mother, she, like, as she will say in the book, I am God the Mother and I have been holy ghosted.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, I
Yes,
didn't realize that God the Mother was the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. So.
And the Holy Ghost concept itself is like so complicated that no one can explain it anyway. It's like a sorrowful mystery that you sort of like say, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, Holy Ghost, who's the Holy Ghost? Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. Well, of course, now when you think about it, it makes sense. Father, Son, and the Holy Mother, right? Holy Father.
Right. Or mother, daughter, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is Sophia too. So she's, you know, the divine daughter. The Syzygy of Christos, according to the Gnostics and Nag Hammadi.
Oh, okay. Bob?
Now you're name dropping.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I do that every once in a while.
Did you study the Bible when you were a kid, I'm trying to think of what you came into this project knowing already.
Well, you want to hear some? Nobody asked me that question, and I will tell you this. My father was going to be a priest.
So was Bob.
Bob, you were going to be a priest?
I'm leaving every door open. That's still an option at this point.
Really?
At this point,
I mean,
yeah.
I used to draw myself as a
Bob
nun.
was an altar boy.
Were you really?
Yeah.
With the name of Eckstein, he was like a devout Catholic.
So that's why this book was so fascinating to me, because I'm very anxious to learn how much you came into this project already having these thoughts. And, for instance, did you always know that Noah's wife has gone basically unnamed and uncredited? Or was that something you learned after you began the project?
That's something I learned after I began the project. I really didn't know much about Norea at all. And then when I did my deep dive into the Gnostics and all these women who were basically sidelined, and found out about Norea, who's mentioned 5 times in the Bible. She actually, not by name, she's mentioned as Noah's wife.
Right.
And when I found out who she was, and then I found out what she did, which was mind-blowing, right?
Now, when you say what she did, you're talking about destroying the ark initially and then Noah having to rebuild it. That's a very big project.
That's a
very big project. I don't know how he did that by him, but he had help.
That's a lot of gopher wood, I want to add.
I would say,
because gopher wood is pricey.
It was cedar wood.
Yeah,
so I heard really good in the ark.
I heard gopher wood.
It was cedar wood. That's what I heard. And by the way, their sweaters had no moths in them whatsoever.
Oh my God.
That's important to know. I learned some things, and I was a student of the Bible. So it was really interesting that, you brought that up. And there's another little story that God had come to Noah and said that he was going to go with his nephew instead. And
is that true? I didn't hear that.
It doesn't fit into your book. I have to tell you, if I did this book, it would have been different, because I'm coming at it from a different angle.
Like you're a guy.
Yes.
Because I'm a guy, but I will say this is I so appreciated how you peppered in so much humor within the book too. You're talking about a lot of heady stuff, and I don't want people to be put off by how much research went into this, but you were also able to get off some really good lines. I have some favorite lines in the book that were just really good.
Which ones did you like? Because,
well, one of them would be, it's time for all the goddesses to have a group hug.
Yeah. Okay.
See, you kept your cuteness throughout the story. There's so many times I hear your voice in there where you're saying, come on, I love you. And, just the off the cuff comments you make throughout really made me feel like you were telling the story right there with me. And I thought that really connected with me.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, I just imagine, after Noah's Ark and after the great flood, I just thought about Mother Earth and how she felt. And she must have been totally traumatized that all these people died in the flood, right? She must have had post-traumatic deluge disorder. So
yeah, but you have some really heady parts coming up later. Mm-hmm. There's this one part that I didn't know anything about,
mm-hmm.
and it was the goddess Hypatia.
Oh,
Hypatia.
She wasn't a goddess. She was a real person. She was a scholar. She was the most brilliant woman in Alexandria.
Oh my!
In Egypt, right? And the 400s. And I'm gonna just talk about her a little bit. She's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, and the way you drew it too was very dignified. Like
mm-hmm.
It wasn't in any way, so splashy. You sort of set the tone correctly for a point in the story that was very serious.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of horrible things happened to her. And again, these are all things that I actually didn't know. So it was really fascinating.
Well, Hypatia was, I love her. She was a pagan. She was a brilliant astronomer during her time. She was the world's greatest mathematician, right? The world's greatest astronomer. And she was also the world's greatest philosopher. So I mean, like Barbie, remember Barbie wasn't good in math, like, in the 80s or 90s. That was that whole big scandal when she
she sounds a little nerdy. I'm just saying.
But she wasn't though. She
No,
was all right. And she was really brilliant. Her father was brilliant, and she would give lectures in the Library of Alexandria. And the Library of Alexandria, I don't know if I didn't even know anything about this until I did the research, but the Library of Alexandria was like home to all the knowledge of the world. That was like where all the great scrolls were and all the books and all our history.
Yeah. And now we're talking about Mesopotamian, right? That's
we're
like the time.
We're talking about the cuneiforms.
The birth of mathematics and things like that.
Yeah. But she would give these lectures into packed houses all over Alexandria, and she inspired the wrath of Bishop Cyril, who was an enemy of Orestes, a Christian who was a prefect of Alexandria. And there was there was all these brawls going on.
Yep.
In Alexandria. It was a hotbed of hotheads, basically, where, it was Jews versus Christians, Christians versus pagans. And there were these monks patrolling the streets who were like in black robes, and they were thugs, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like the mafia.
Marisa, this would make a great Netflix series. I gotta say,
This book,
yes, this would be so.
Michael's thinking Game of Thrones.
No, I'm thinking The Crown.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you're from your lips to God the Mother's ears. Let's just say that.
Let's just make this happen.
All right.
Well, this is Cartoon Pad, so we'd like to get into a couple of questions though about cartooning and like how you created the book, if you don't mind, because a lot of people are going to want to know, like, how do you take on such a big project like this? And I myself would love to ask you a couple of questions of the nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's start with, did you storyboard out the story first, or did you write it out in long form as a narrative, as a story?
I storyboard everything first.
Is that from your art director background? Because I find that fascinating too, because your goddesses strike a pose. They are fashion forward.
Thanks. Well, okay, there's two reasons for that. First of all, my mom was a shoe designer, right?
Right.
When she was pregnant with me, she was the head designer at Delman, the Bergdorf Goodman line. And she got a phone call at her office, and it was this woman speaking in a very like whispery voice. And she said, "Hello, can I speak to the designer?" And my mother said in her Jersey's accent, "I'm a designer." And she said, "Well, this is Jackie Kennedy, and I need a shoe for a very special event." And my mother said, "Oh, go on." She didn't believe her at all. And she said, no, it's really me. I'm a size 11 and a half shoe, and I can't find anything to wear. So my mother's like, "I'm a size 11 and a half. We could commiserate." So anyway, guess what that special event was? The special event was what?
JFK being sworn in.
It was his inauguration. My mother.
I remember the shoes.
Yeah.
That was not noticed. You'd be ridiculous not to notice those shoes.
Thank you, Bob. I didn't know you were a shoe guy, but
I have a keen eye for those details.
Andy Warhol started out as he was a shoe artist.
Guess what? My mother hired him to design a shoe box. Yeah, I swear to God. My mother thought he was like, "Who's this like little guy? He's like afraid of everything."
Except fame.
I know. I mean, that he was definitely like a moth to the fame flame.
Yes. Sure. So I have to say, your cartoon. I've read your background as an art director, and I have to say, my primary other career has been as a copywriter.
I didn't know that. Where'd you work?
I worked at the most elite fashion house of the Midwest, being Land's End.
Okay.
So if you need like socks or basics.
Wait, Land's End has a really great catalog, though.
Well, I was a writer for the catalog.
All right, that was a cool catalog.
Yes, and that's how I actually kind of got into the New Yorker, because Lee Eisenberg, who is the former editor of Esquire.
I met Lee when I was in advertising. I was actually working on Esquire's campaign.
There
I
you
did
go.
a campaign at Kirschenbaum and Bond for Esquire. Swear to God.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
He's a great guy.
And he goes, "You want to be a cartoonist? You want to be a writer? Here, draw some stuff and write some stuff." So that's how I kind of got my start.
Oh, that's amazing. Can I tell you a little bit of gossip?
Let's dish.
Listen, Marty.
I had lunch, with Richard Kirschenbaum, who's still one of my best friends. I was his creative director at his agency, Kirschenbaum and Bond, right? So Richard and I had lunch with Lee Eisenberg at Petrosian, right? We're having caviar. And all he talked about, you thought he would be talking about the magazine. He was talking about Donna Mills and how he was dating her and how she was kind of driving him nuts.
Donna Mills.
That's Knots Landing. Come on.
Yes, I know.
I thought he would talk about Bruce McCall and their latest project.
No, he was like all about Donna Mills. And I was like, okay, that's really great. Can we have more caviar, please? I'm like, I don't really give a shit about Donna Mills. I was like, I just want
Well, at least he didn't talk about baseball.
What's that?
At least he didn't talk about baseball.
I love baseball. I could have talked about baseball.
Oh, he started the rotisserie league. He's kind of started fantasy baseball.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, see, we have cosmic connections.
Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? So. All right, back to Bob.
All right, back to Bob. So Bob, you did ask me about like my story, being in advertising and storyboarding too. I mean, so it was like a combination of my mother being a shoe designer, right? And she would do these trend reports with great looking women wearing the shoes that she designed. So I was imitating her when I was like 3 or 4. And then, going into advertising and learning how to do a storyboard on a commercial that you would, come up with, and like learning how to, basically plot out the images for a 30-second spot. So those two things basically, I think were really good training for writing graphic novels.
Did you, okay, this is very kind of uninformed on my part, but did you look at comic books when you were younger?
You know what? I did, but I was more into Brenda Starr and Tiffany Jones.
So those are strip comics.
I was more into the strip comics. I was into this, into the episodic.
Because your structure is very, it's classic comic book becomes graphic novel.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I mean, when I write something, I think about musicality, right? You want to land on a note for a long time and give it like weight and gravitas, and would be like the splash screen or the introduction of a character.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And then you would sort of like, start the symphony and then land on another big note and then go off again. And I just like having the boom kind of
I get it, because Mary Magdalene rocked my world.
She rocks my world for sure.
Yes.
I love Mary Magdalene.
She's sort of like the Anne Margaret in the middle of the book, and Elvis, and Jesus is Elvis.
Jesus is Elvis. Well, do you know historically Mary Magdalene was a great, great beauty, and she was a redhead?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, she was apparently like staggeringly gorgeous. Like,
one of my favorite lines is like, I do know how to love him, what to do.
Right. I do know how to love him, and the feeling is mutual.
That was very fascinating.
I did a lot of research on her, and I didn't know that her mother, Queen Eucharis,
was
right?
Noah's
her father was king.
Wife? No.
Mary Magdalene's mother was a queen. Her father was a king, right? One of the kings. He was the head of one of the 12 tribes of Israel, the head of the Benjamin tribes. And Mary Magdalene's mother got a visitation from Archangel Gabriel, just like the Blessed Mother did, to announce, the Annunciation with Jesus. So, I mean, I didn't know that. There's so much more to Mary Magdalene.
There's always a debate about her. This is an ongoing thing. I mean, it seems like the interpretation of her role has been always evolving.
Well, you know what? The whole thing about Mary Magdalene being a prostitute, and she wasn't a prostitute, and, you know, was she slut shamed? Was she not slut shamed? I mean, to me, my research led me to believe, and I believe this to be true, is that, you know, she was en route to marry the richest man in Babylon. She was kidnapped and sold into, she was sex trafficked and she did become a prostitute, and she realized what her calling was again. And the money that she made as a prostitute, she freed her sisters, who also became prostitutes, and went to meet Jesus and had this epic love story. But why deny her sexuality, right? Why? I mean, you could have redemption, and you could also, like, women are sexual beings. So why, like, take that away from her? I just never understood, like, that whole aspect of Mary Magdalene. What do you guys think?
Well, that runs through your book of these men are evil people who want to suppress other people who happen to be women. And
well, it's not, but the thing is, it's not men. I feel like it's a certain aspect of the patriarchy. If you want to say the patriarchy, you could call them the cabal, you could call them the authorities. To me, it's more like the 1%, the cabal, the authorities. That's who they are.
And they still exist.
And they do still exist. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's a goddess, Inanna, the Sumerian goddess, right? Who, I think she's really great. She's like the goddess of love and war, fertility. And, you know, she had this whole thing, Heroes Gamos, where a woman would be her, the goddess, and they would select a man to be the king, right? And they would mate and have this great fertility ritual. And then when I found out that the king was sacrificed, they killed the guy. I was like, wait, that is like not good. I mean, I'm not down with that. And, you know,
someone's got to get sacrificed. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I kind of threw her off the cloud floor. She got like 86. I'm like, no, you know. No,
oh, she didn't make the cut.
What?
She didn't make the book cut.
She's in the book.
Oh, is there any goddess that didn't make the book because you thought, this is not quite what I want?
I mean, I could only put so many goddesses in. So, I mean, there were a lot that I.
You're a goddess rich, I have to say.
There's like a riches. There's an embarrassment of bitches. Let's say that.
That's very good.
Bitches and riches. There's a
exactly.
No, I think that one thing you asked about, what I thought of what you said was so much is still the same centuries and centuries later. And here we are talking about the same themes and issues and the same problems we have with men and women. I mean, and you look back at all the different things that happen in this book, it's very CSI Galileo, you know, it's all these horrible crimes and stuff. It's really crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, you know, what happened to Hypatia was horrible, the way she was murdered.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Hypatia too, but
yeah.
So I have to ask though, how much of this do you think are historical cautionary tales and how much is like actual events that were recorded? Because it does say it's as told. I mean, no one, I don't know the historical accuracy, but I don't think that's important actually as the story is.
Well, I mean, look, this is my interpretation of things that I've read and, you know,
right.
My intuition. And also, I mean, I didn't want to make a book that was like based on books that I had read previously, because a lot of what I'm writing about, I feel like a lot of what we've been told historically is not true.
Right. That's what makes it interesting, because it's through your point of view and through a specific your specific experience. That's what makes the book.
Thank you. Well, here's the thing too. There's a whole aspect of the Library of Alexandria that was actually burned down, and word is the inside scoop, right? Is that it was burned by the Romans.
Those Romans.
Yeah, and
they do everything.
They do. I mean, and then basically they took those books, and it's in the Vatican Museum, and our real history, I mean, I actually have it in here, has been held back from us. So
your book should be in the Vatican. You know what you should do? Wait, I have an idea.
Will be in the Vatican.
They're probably looking it over right now and trying to decide what to do.
No, I have a great way to help sales. Is that instead of the Bible, if your book was in every hotel room, could you imagine the sales? That would be a real boost to your book.
That would be awesome. Actually,
it would be.
Anybody at the Hyatt or the Hilton?
Let me make some phone calls to the Motel 6.
No, you need to call the Gideons. That's
true. So, did you guys ever hear about the jump rooms in the Hilton Hotel?
No, but I think we will.
So, because I've done a lot of research on supernatural, and that's kind of in here. That's kind of in here too.
When you say research, air quotes. You're using air quotes when you say that.
Research, yes, research. But yeah, so apparently there are like certain rooms that are jump rooms that are wormholes in the Hilton Hotel.
To wormholes to where?
To like maybe Mars.
Yeah, they're time portals, stupid. Come on, Michael.
They are portals. Like 30 seconds, like 60 seconds to Mars, 30 seconds to Mars.
Yeah.
Like Jared Leto, they say he's been to Mars.
Yeah. Do you know I told you about my gym, right? The guy in my hot tub.
Is that through chemicals?
No,
you want to go to Mars, dude?
No, this is like the jump rooms. Seriously.
Yeah, no,
really?
I told you about my gym. There's this guy in the hot tub who told me, he wanted me to go back with him to Philadelphia, 1936. There was a time portal in our gym.
Oh, really?
And I was really busy and I didn't have the time, but he went.
You could have had the time if you went through a time jump.
Yes.
You could have
I had no time. I told you and Ellen about this. I said I wasn't going to do it. I haven't seen him since.
Maybe he's in Philadelphia.
He's in Philadelphia.
Exactly. He's in Philadelphia.
He's working on the project, the nuclear project.
He's working on the Philadelphia experiment.
Yes, that's what he's doing. Something like that.
Maybe he's developing cream cheese.
I don't listen to everything he says. But,
he's developing cream cheese.
But look, there's so much I want to talk to you about because, first of all, I listen to all your other talks and stuff, and you don't get a chance to talk about you and some of your other things. And I do want to give you a chance to let us know more about you. So let's pivot a little bit, and let me ask you a transition question, and that is, was there anything you learned from Ann Tanner, the book previously, that helped you with the Big Shebang book? Was there anything that you could say was a learning step?
From Ann Tanner to the Big Shebang?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's kind of interesting because they're both sort of similar in a way, because Ann Tanner gets through her own bad behavior, right? She's a gossip columnist and blows smoke in her driver's face that she's in her, Cadillac SUV as a passenger, and her driver friend, she blows smoke in her face at a traffic light, and they get into an accident, and Ann dies and gets sucked up and meets her higher self. Well, I, in the Big Shebang, get sucked up into outer space and I meet God the Mother, right? So there is an element of like the supernatural in both books. I've always been kind of obsessed about like what else is out there. So I guess exploring that realm in Ann Tanner made me kind of want to take it a little bit further and meet what else was out there in that realm, not just my higher self, but broaden out the whole aspect of, what other entities exist
Sure.
out there.
I have to ask, have you ever had a personal epiphany? Because that's sort of the essence of a lot of spiritual awakenings. I worked at Xavier University for a while in Cincinnati.
Oh, really?
Yes, and Francis Xavier took a cannonball to the groin. So, yes, and he was in his bed for a long time, and then he crawled into a cave and had an epiphany and saw a crystal cobra.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, so there, you think, well, oh, here comes Marisa with parsing together all these events, but this stuff is all recorded. It's not like you're making this up.
Mm-hmm.
You're just reinterpreting it. So I'm wondering if there was some event, of something descended, appeared before the.
I mean, like, did I ever meet God? Is that what you're asking, or
I don't know what I'm asking. I'm just, I'm fishing here. Bob, help me.
It could be a UFO or Bigfoot. I think you and me have both agreed we've seen UFOs.
I definitely have seen UFOs.
Yeah. I mean, each day almost for you.
Well, I mean, it's like, this is like UFO hub over here.
And I keep telling you, that's just the light. That's the zoom light that you're seeing, that ring on the reflection.
I mean, these were like a bunch of lights moving in unison,
Oh. Have you met Barry Diller? I mean, that's an epiphany.
I did meet Barry Diller.
I've met Barry Diller.
Yeah, I did meet Barry Diller. He was very odd.
Marty?
Yes, he
met
was.
Barry Diller?
Bob, did you meet Barry Diller?
I have, after some drugs. I mean, that's something that's happened after I've taken some drugs.
That's a sad side effect, Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was hoping for some Elvis.
Let's go even further back to
Okay.
Cancer Vixen. I was just talking about that book with my wife last night, and she was saying again how much that book has meant to us. We give it to some of our friends as a gift. We have friends Meg and Patty Jane who might be hearing this now, that it really influenced them, and it meant so much to them. The book meant so much to Tammy and me.
Thank you.
The book worked on different levels. I mean, we even have a friend who's working on a graphic novel now as she's going through cancer treatment. And your book has opened up doors to her imagination, to what she could do and how she could express herself. So it's just a chance for me to say thank you again. I think that book is very important.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I didn't know as I was writing it, what kind of impact it would have. But I just thought, if this is making me feel better, and it's, if I'm laughing and if I'm like, right, as long as I'm writing what's honest, I thought that, maybe people would respond to it as well. So, and also for me, it was important when I was writing it, never to put the word "my" in front of the word cancer. I didn't want to own it. I wanted to keep cancer off me. And I wanted to put it on the page and not on my body. So, that was really important too, just to get that whole like situation on paper. And I didn't realize it, but that's called objective journaling. And I just think whenever anybody goes through any kind of trauma, to put it on the page, it's a much healthier way, I feel, to deal with the situation.
Yeah. But the book is just one. The book is just one part now. Can you talk just a moment about your involvement too, beyond that, with the Gilda House and other things that you've taken on?
Didn't I meet you there at the Gilda House, or I met you before and then you went to that event with Sam?
I was at that event.
Right.
I'm not sure why. I was there to support somebody, and I had met you there. We have a mutual friend. We have a lot of parallels. You and me both are Pratt alumni.
Yes.
We both know Sam. We're both very close with Sam.
I got to call Sam.
We both slept with Barry Diller.
Bob, oh my God, you slept with Barry Diller?
I don't know who he is. I'm going to have to Google him later.
You're probably what I got, he don't want. So
I know there's something else in this mug, and I'm off track.
I'm avoiding this whole conversation at this point.
But the Gilda House was really amazing at the time. It had to be about almost 15 years ago. And
yeah, and then you're also friends with Alan Zweibel.
Yeah, we have that in common, who I hope to work with him down the road. he's really, really talented, but he thinks the world of you because you were mentioned somewhere. I'm going to listen to both of you too. And he did bring you up in something. And I want to say it's Adriana's thing.
Oh, wow.
Because you guys also know her.
Right. Adriana's one of my closest friends. I love her.
Right. So that's where you guys have a little path cross. But
no, you know what? Actually, I met him at the Texas Book Fair, in Austin.
And I met Alan at the Miami Book Fair.
Okay.
And I've heard you speak though before you and I were friends, and I was so impressed by your poise and your the way you related your story with cancer, your relationship with it, to women who were in the audience and stuff, and it's really inspirational.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, look, cancer sucks, right? And I don't want anybody to go through it ever. But I will say that I have met some pretty amazing people on that journey. So, and it's rewarding to me to be able to do something or help women in any way I can. So,
well, you keep doing that. You've been ratcheting up the stakes here. So a logical question would be is, where do you go from here? You've answered all the questions of the universe with this book. I mean, there's all these different stories about the Bible and everything. So what do you think you could do for an encore?
I have a bunch of things that I'm kind of working on. It's like I'm sort of like just figuring that out right now. I've got a bunch of projects that are sort of like, and
Marisa, I sort of felt like this book is like the Old Testament. This is the book of rules. This is the book of characters. And on the last, on your last page, I'm kind of expecting Catherine Janeway. I'm expecting it to get contemporary and real and like all hell to break loose.
Oh, you mean because of the UFOs at the end?
Yes.
I'm totally obsessed with UFOs.
But I can see the Voyager popping through there, and Janeway at the helm, and that wormhole is
So all right, so that's Star Trek, right?
Yes.
All right, so you guys, I'm not really a Star Trek fan, believe it or not. I'm more of like a Stargate, SG-1, Stargate, like Atlantis, that kind of thing.
Okay, I have to say you left out my favorite two goddesses in this book.
Who?
The first being Diana Rigg, Mrs. Peel.
She's actually in my first book.
Oh, see, I'm sorry, I haven't read that one yet. But
I love Diana Rigg.
She's
like my idol.
I love Mrs. Peel, but that was as a 10-year-old. And
okay, I loved her too. I loved her when she was in her leather jumpsuit.
Yes.
Polyester pantsuit, not so much.
No. And I've always enjoyed a woman that could just like beat the hell out of me. Just not personally, but I like
to beat the hell out of you.
Good luck. Bring it on.
That's why you guys are such a good team.
He's so lucky he's on the other coast.
That's right.
Where are you right now?
I'm in the mid coast. I'm in Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
We're not letting him out.
No.
Not after that statement.
Manitowoc is Moida.
It's Moida?
Yeah, the Manitowoc, wasn't making a murderer. It got famous for a series.
It did?
Yes. We don't have to go into it now.
Okay.
It's sad.
All right.
My other favorite goddess is a Citroen DS.
Citroen DS?
Yes.
Please explain. I don't know that.
Okay, it's the Citroen car, the DS 19, and it was the goddess. It was considered the goddess of automobiles.
I do love a Citroen. I mean, like, did you ever see that movie Betty Blue?
No, but
that's the best part of the movie is a Citroen.
Did you see Day of the Jackal?
I didn't.
Oh, anyway, that's the quintessence of a car. I grew up in the Midwest, but I was eerily Europeanish. So
Westerner, okay.
Yes, so
Europeanist, Michael.
Europeanist.
Please, Bob.
Oh my God, this is like Beavis and Butthead right now.
Yeah.
I was like watching Absolutely Fabulous, and I was like, these women are just like Beavis and Butthead, aren't they? Ever see
Did
it?
you like
But
the
that's an
movie
interesting.
What?
I'm
No.
sorry, I cut you off. I was going to ask if you guys saw the reboot movie, Absolutely
No.
Fabulous.
The movie?
Yeah, when they came back.
I did see it. I actually met her, Jennifer Saunders. I went to the opening. Yeah, I have a picture with her. I love her, by the way. I think she's
I can't
a
play
genius.
Kevin Bacon's 6 Degrees of Separation with you because I know you've met just about everyone. I'm going to lose at that game.
All right.
I'm
Do you
surprised
know?
you met her.
You know the weekend that 6 Degrees of Separation of Kevin Bacon came out? Do you know what happened?
What happened?
This is really funny. I'm serious. All right. I was working in advertising. I was working at Young and Rubicam. It was a Monday morning. I could not wake up at my desk, right? So I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to get like a big cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So I get my coffee. It's like the big jug, the mega cup, right? I'm like half asleep still. It's like 9:45, 10 o'clock. I'm not even looking at anywhere I'm going because I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm coming out of Dunkin' Donuts. I open the door. All of a sudden I hear, can I drop the F-bomb?
Yeah, I guess so. Well,
All
Marty's giving you the thumbs up.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on,
all of a
please.
sudden I hear a guy say, "Oh, fuck," right? I'm like, oh my God, like, what's wrong? What's happening? And like papers are flying all over the place. And I'm like, holy shit. And I see this guy like scrambling to get like what I realize now is a script. He's like, God damn it to hell. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he scowls and he picks up his script and it was Kevin Bacon.
Kevin fucking Bacon.
Kevin fucking Bacon. That weekend, I was 1 fucking degree of Kevin Bacon on 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon weekend.
Well, I know enough of these stories to know that you must feel like you're living in a movie. Really, the things that you've been through, all the challenges and all the achievements, it's really been a roller coaster.
It has been a roller coaster. It's still a roller coaster.
I know.
I mean, look, let's just be honest about something, right? Like being a cartoonist, you can't say that is like the ultimate roller coaster life of all. Because you never know, like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, right?
Down, down, down.
All right, down, down, down. Maybe up, down, 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 down.
Yeah.
No, I've lived a rich and full life from my basement in Manitowoc. So
From your basement?
no, you were like, okay, I have to say you were like the epitome of what I thought a New Yorker cartoonist was because of the people you drew and the situations you put them in.
Well,
Absolutely.
Thank you. I have to say, I always thought, if you're a New Yorker cartoonist, draw life as a New Yorker, right?
Yes, and of course, I have no idea what that is, having never lived in New York. My brother-in-law did, and basically, I lived the life of Thurber, which was sort of like stuck in the Midwest and kind of cockeyed. So you go with what you got.
You go with what you got, but did you know about the Bermuda house in James?
Well,
Thurber,
that's what I
right?
was trying to get to because I was fascinated when I heard about this, that you vacationed. See, I didn't know Thurber never owned a house in Bermuda, as far as I knew. He vacationed there.
He's
Well,
squatting.
it was his house. It was this
Okay.
pink elephant of a house on the fringe of this resort, which is no longer in existence, called the Lantana. And, it was our first family vacation that wasn't like the Jersey Shore, Ocean City, New Jersey. And, my mother didn't like the room. It was like we had a really small room. So she like complained and we got put into this like pink elephant of a house. And there's all these drawings on the walls with captions on them. And I was like drawing women anyway, because I was imitating my mother, with the fabulous women wearing the fabulous shoes thing. I was kind of like doing my version of that. And I saw these drawings on the wall with like captions. I'm like, oh, wow. Like the women I'm drawing could actually talk, I made that connection at like 8 years old. And I saw all these old New Yorkers in the house. It was James Thurber's house, right?
Wow.
It was his drawings, his cartoons on the walls. There were all these old New Yorkers, and the book, The Thurber Carnival, was there. The White Deer. I read everything, and I fell asleep at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I woke up at 6 o'clock with the sensation that things were crawling all over me. I was like itchy all over, and I have like itchy skin anyway. And it turns out the house, well, yeah, it was infested with like red ants. So I was like literally eaten alive. But that's when I say I got the cartoonist bug. But anyway,
I think that constitutes an epiphany.
Yeah, that was an epiphany for sure.
That's good. No, I've noticed your women are statuesque, and I will say almost Amazonian.
Mm-hmm.
But your men are too, so they're equals. But with Thurber, the women are monstrous and the men are tiny.
That's true. He was definitely, I don't know if he had such a fun marriage or a good marriage. I mean,
no, his first marriage with Althea was sort of a disaster. His second marriage was, I can't recall her name, but she was basically his caretaker.
Well, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I'm just saying that he sort of like, he landed on that shtick and he stuck to it.
He stuck to the shtick.
Yeah, he stuck to his shtick because that was sort of his thing. And he knew that was going to be his gravy train.
Well, why was that going to be his his shtick? Okay.
Yeah.
But did you ever hear the story that, I think, is it Sam who tells the story about Truman Capote?
He was an assistant to the art director, Garrity.
Right, but he also, when Thurber was having an affair,
yes, would lead him around.
He would lead him around and like help him get dressed. And one time, like Thurber had 2 different socks on or something, and that's how his wife found out.
That was Mary. I heard it was he came home with his socks inside out.
Okay, but it was Truman Capote who did it, I think, right?
Yes.
I guess he was pissed off at him or something.
The other story was that Truman was the assistant to the, I guess it was James Garrity. And later on, when they were cleaning up the offices, they found like hundreds of cartoons he had just shoved behind a desk.
Actually, it was just dozens of cartoons they were all by Jack Ziegler, who he had a bone to pick with just Jack Ziegler. He hated his style. And Jack Ziegler's style at that time was extremely different, in the same way that Raj Chaz's style was very different when she came on the scene. Jack's was very different. And Michael, you might know this better than I do, but was Jack the first person to use banners in the gag cartoons?
No. If you go back to like John Held Jr., he did like engravings, and he would do banners. But okay. I think what Ziegler did was he sort of created what you're saying is the internally captioned cartoon. So he would create a little box,
mm-hmm.
and then he would put his gag, like the Toast Whisperer.
Right.
And then he'd show this guy, maybe like, come on, baby, give me something a little burnt. Give me something a little toasty, And that was sort of his thing.
When I met him, that was a big changing point in my work. He influenced the few things he told me really stuck.
You know what? What did he tell you? Because I have a Jack Ziegler story too. So what did he tell you? What?
He told me to quit.
He did? No, did he really?
He said to me, he goes, don't expect anything good the first 1,000 cartoons. He goes, do like 1,000 cartoons first. And then at number 1,001, we'll just click.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
No, wait, Bob, but didn't you start selling immediately though?
I did, but then I had a slump because I didn't know that everyone didn't sell, because when I first went to the New Yorker, I assumed that everyone who was in the room sold multiple cartoons. I didn't know there was more people submitting. For some reason, I thought everyone came in. I didn't know anything about the New Yorker, and I did get lucky that I've said this a zillion times. People are tired of it, but I did sell the first cartoon I drew in my batch for Bob. But then it took me a while. It took me months before I sold the second.
What was that cartoon? I'm just curious.
It was Hecklers on Poetry Night. You call that a metaphor?
It's more like a simile.
Yeah. But
wait, Marisa's got a Jack Ziegler story.
Yeah, I was
No,
going to say,
actually, it
let's hear
wasn't
your
really-
Jack story.
It's not really a story. It was just that the first time I went and met Bob, right? It was Thanksgiving, like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and there was nobody there, and he just was really like super nice and was like very encouraging. The opposite of what you had, I'm sorry. But Sidney Harris made up for it because he was like, don't ever expect you're gonna make a living out of this kid.
Well, that's what Bob said. He said, I like your work, never moved to New York.
He said that to you?
Yeah, so I never did. So
That's a shame. It could have been neighbors.
Okay.
Hey, come on. Don't be like that. I always thought that you had a moment where your cartooning was groundbreaking when you did these 3D cartoons for W Magazine. That was just, to me, so great what you were creating for this magazine, which, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think W is with us anymore.
W is no longer with us, but W is online, but it's not a magazine anymore, which is a bummer.
Now, can people go back and see these cartoons that you did for W? Are they still on the web?
Yeah, they're on my website, marisaacocella.com.
Okay, everyone just stop this podcast right now and go there now and come back to this.
Yeah, let me know what you think. I just redid the website. Well, it's been cleaned up.
Oh, I think those cartoons are just wonderful. You know how excited I was remember I called you up immediately when I saw them. I said, this is it. This is the future.
Thank you.
This is it.
That was fun to do, actually.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. I was really bummed, but they let me go because I was too expensive.
Let's just describe it just for a second, what these were, because I'm being cryptic here, but you could do a better job describing. I'll just start it in that they were animated and they were glittery and they were just so fun. It was like something.
Well, I mean, I did, what did I do? I did Karl Lager. They asked me to, I did a thing about fashion and space and outer space because a fashion designer was doing something about a men's show on Mars, and I met Buzz Aldrin. So, I had, and then Karl Lagerfeld had a rocket launch in Paris at his show. So I just animated all that, and I just had stars all over the place. I can't even remember what I wrote, but
and I have to go back for a second.
Very cosmic. What?
I have to go back. You just dropped that in there. You've met Buzz yourself.
I did meet Buzz.
And that, of course, the question now is, did you meet him on the moon, or where'd you meet him?
Well, I met him at this fashion show. I interviewed him. He was kind of charming, actually. I mean, I think he definitely wanted to talk to me. I think it was the blonde thing,
Yeah.
I see he likes blondes, but yeah, I did. I mean, before I met him, I met that guy, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Sure.
Actually, I met Bill Nye afterwards, and I was talking to him. I'm like, I believe a lot of these conspiracy theories, and he's like, well, don't mention the conspiracy theories about the moon, because Buzz might just like punch you in the mouth. I'm like, thank God I already talked to Buzz, but the conspiracy theory is that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing. Did you ever hear about that one?
No.
I'm sitting down. Go ahead.
You would think it would be better if Kubrick filmed it.
Yeah, well, they say that the moon landing never happened, that it was actually filmed, in a set in Hollywood.
Oh, no, we know about that. I thought you were going to say something else.
No, what did you think I was going to say?
I don't know. There's a lot of fact checking to go back on this podcast. We're going to go back to a few things. I just want to correct myself. Barry Diller, I didn't know he was the guy at Fox. I was mistaking him for Phyllis Diller.
Oh, so you slept with Phyllis Diller.
Yeah, that was.
Wait, Bob, did you sleep with Phyllis Diller?
Let's just cut out this whole section. This is getting in hot water.
I hope Fang doesn't hear about this, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
We painted ourselves in the corner. There's some dramatic silence.
Okay.
No.
Let me ask you, what do you want to talk about? What didn't we cover? We learned so much, but what else did we have to cover? The forum is yours.
Let's see. I don't know. What else is there? Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about?
What did you learn from the big shebang? I asked you what you learned going into it. What do you think you learned from it? Do you feel like after you completed this book, there's something now you could take away?
Well, I definitely feel that as a species, humanity is much more powerful than we've been told. That's for number one. Number two, we've been lied to our whole lives. Our history has been held back. That's
What do you think? Who's holding the history back? I'm always interested by that. Like,
bastard 1%ers. Like,
okay, how do you become a 1%er? Because
I think you're born into it. It's like bloodlines.
Told you, Michael.
Bloodline.
See, I told you. You just can't wish it.
Yeah. So, like, you know what? It's like, and you won't be one through a blood transfusion either.
A hack.
So,
I'm wondering about. Oh, I forgot what they're called. Let me refer to the.
They're called pens. Michael.
No.
what else I'm trying to think of what else I learned. I mean, like.
Yeah, keep going. That's good.
Let me relay a story that you shared with me about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we're going in the weeds, but these are cartoon nerds like me. We'd like to hear the stories about like the mechanics of it. And I remember you contacted me saying that you're going to redo the lettering. And I have to say that the lettering in the book is really nice and personal. As your editor, I would have said, whatever the lettering would have been, I said, with 2 weeks left, let's go with it and don't do it over.
No, oh my God. The lettering. Okay. Yeah. I actually I did a typeface, right? Based on my lettering. It was a total disaster.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
It looks very computerized when you do that. I tried the same thing.
I hated it. And it was placed in, trying to produce a graphic novel in the pandemic. The lettering was all over the place. It was out of the bubbles. And I was just like, you know what, just let me do it myself. So I just took the book back and relettered the whole thing into.
Oh, you're having this conversation with you or an editor, because you haven't mentioned much about how close you work with an editor. And this is a beast of a book. This book has so many different elements and so much to juggle. Could you share with us like how much an editor was involved in the stewardship of this whole thing?
Well, it's different because like different publishers are different. I mean, that's like one thing I've realized, but I mean, in terms of the story, and I was, working with my editor, and, that's different than working with the production side, right? Because you're producing a book. So you're working on the mechanics of the actual book, like what the page is going to look like, what you're going to deliver to the printer, how you're going to do the color, how, like this book had so many different layers.
You see, in my case, when I'm working with my people, I have to go through my editor. They want to intercept because they're trying to minimize the amount of friction and amount of pushback their art department is going to get. So I'm getting everything gets filtered through an editor. But I'm also curious to know do you choose your editors because your relationship with them is going to allow you the freedom, and you're the type of person, maybe you're not, that doesn't need to be handheld, and you want to be left alone and kind of have minimal amount of involvement from an editor?
Well, I mean, I think, well, you want some involvement from an editor. You want somebody to take a look at what you're doing and, make comments and, get their opinion on things, right? But then you also want to make sure your voice is maintained and, the integrity of the work, right? So there's a balance, I think.
A lot of new people, though, would not like that. I know a lot of people who haven't had a book published don't appreciate the importance of a good editor.
I mean, I definitely appreciate the importance of a good editor.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you know what? Nobody's really working in a vacuum anymore. I mean, maybe some people are, but I mean, if you're going to be published by a publisher, and they're paying for your book, they're going to make comments. And that's like the reality of business. It is a business, right?
Right. No, that's a good point. Can you share with us what's coming next for you?
I'm like a little bit, what's the word?
Exhausted?
No, I'm exhausted. No. What's the word when you kind of, I'm working on a bunch of different things right now. So
Great.
yeah, so
You're operant.
I am operant.
You're operant. Whatever happens.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I'm superstitious. That's the word.
Okay, but can we follow you on your website and see what develops?
Yes, you can absolutely follow me on my website or follow me on Instagram and Facebook and mostly those two. Yeah.
Could you just spell your website again so everyone could write this down? We all could get on board with that.
Okay, it's Marisa, Marisa, Acocella, Acocella. I mean, I have a bunch of things right now. I'm sort of like juggling, but I will be,
Will one bubble to the top?
Hopefully.
Okay. So here's what I want to ask you about the archons, the psychic parasites that invade the human brain. That seemed very H.P. Lovecraft to me.
Who's that?
It was like this. H.P. Lovecraft was like someone knows. There was a movie where there was this realm of parasites that were unperceptible to humans, except when you became enlightened and could perceive them. And then they were like swirling all about, and they would like activate your pineal gland, and it would come popping out of your head, and it was awesome.
All right, so the archons, basically, that is the head archon, right? Was birthed by Sophia, God the Mother's daughter, the divine daughter, who went off on her own, right?
Right. Well, her parents were arguing, by the way.
They were arguing about, I mean, that's kind of what I wrote, but yeah, so she, through her own, she broke the law of creation. Creation is created through male and female entities, but she went off and did it on her own. And she took a leap from heaven, which was called the pleroma, according to the Gnostics, pierced the veil and became very afraid. And because she was so creative, her thoughts were things, and her thoughts, she was in fear. So she gave birth to this archon, the head archon, called Yaldabaoth, right? And he created the archon minions. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of what H.P. Lovecraft was talking about, I think, because those archons are now part of,
and they're still around.
They're still around.
I pulled one out the other day, man. It's nasty.
Okay, careful with those things.
I know. Tell me about it. That's that fascinated me.
So what's up with you guys? So
this.
And by the way, I love your book, but
thank you.
Yeah.
There's a story behind that too, because
how did you guys wind up working together?
Well, I wanted to do, I'm still kind of working on it, is a satire of the original Elements of Style.
Mm-hmm.
Where Thurber goes to Hollywood, hunts down Strunk, Professor Strunk, who's doing the, I'll pitch it to you right now. So he's hunting down, I think it's William, I forget his first name, but Professor Strunk, who's in Hollywood doing the script supervision for Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
So Thurber shows up because he's trying to get into Hollywood too. So he takes Strunk's original Elements of Style before E.B. White gets a hold of it and completely perverts it.
Mm-hmm. So that was
my pitch to Bob. And
okay.
he says that's awful. And we started working on it.
And then you're like, that's awful. Let's do it.
No.
I said Elements of Stress.
Yeah, I said this is too stressful. And then I said, how about Elements of Strife.
Uh-huh.
And then he says, what about Elements of Stress?
I mean, it's really a great book. It's really funny, I have to say.
It's stressful.
Everything's stressful.
It's homeopathic. So adding stress reduces stress.
Did you find that writing about stress was stressful, or was it stress relieving?
I think it's stress relieving.
Okay. What do you think,
Because-
Bob? Okay.
It's very stressful working with Michael.
Really? Michael, how
I
did you
thought-
feel about working with Bob?
I like Bob because he's very fastidious, as you can tell, and he wants to stick to scripts and he wants to be very tidy. And I just like blowing that to hell. So it's good.
That's why you guys are a good team.
Well,
Yes.
I am Michael's biggest fan. I mean, I think that Michael is really very funny. I love his cartoons, but my working style is different. I am uptight. And I think that I am a little bit controlling and stuff like that as a person who's done other books by themselves. But I do very much appreciate Michael's talent. That's nothing that I have to wait for it. And there's times in which it's not on time, but I do feel like good talent is often worth waiting for. And I remember that's what Joe Strummer said about Mick Jones at the Clash. Mick Jones was notoriously always late for everything. And I used to say this to myself when I waited for Michael to do something. I say, that it worked for the Clash. I think it could work for us. I have to.
That's
be
right.
patient.
And Joe Strummer is dead now. So
I know.
Where did
He
that
died
get
of
him?
stress. It was just the aggravated
Exactly.
waiting. Mick Jones killed him, and to me, this is where this is going.
I have to say, I love the Clash.
Oh, I missed them.
Were you, Marissa, were you ever into Art Bell? Some of your
I love Art Bell.
that's what I was thinking, because
Yeah.
I used to listen to Art Bell and it would just freak myself out to the point where I need to like turn the radio off.
Oh, I love all that stuff. I seriously do. I love like alt, like
I wanted to get into the Cleopatra needle in the Matrix,
Oh,
because there's there's some freaky shit here. But
wait, the Cleopatra's Needle is in my book.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, the Matrix. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I started seeing. I go, okay, where is this going? Because I thought, okay, here's our leap into, the next chapter.
Because Cleopatra's Needle, right? I mean, that's like on the most powerful ley line here in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, see,
I actually went there.
Well, yeah, it's in the book.
Yeah,
I read you going there.
Yeah. So when I went there, right, if you lean in to the needle,
Yeah.
you can hear Mother Earth. I swear. I recorded it.
You just gave me a little. You gave me a little shiver right now.
If you play it backwards, it says buy the book.
It should say buy the book.
Or Paul is dead.
Oh God.
Okay.
We're going to end on that note.
Well, let's not end on that note.
We are, because we've kept you on so long and you've been so generous with your time. And I know you have other podcasts to do tonight.
Oh my, you are fascinating, Marissa, I have to say.
You
really?
are.
Thank you. This was really fun. You guys. That was a great, I really enjoyed talking to you both.
Well, you know how much you mean to me. So it's been really good to have my friends on like this. So thank you.
Well, it's mutual. Thank you, guys.
Does this count for mass?
Does this count for mass?
Yeah, that's I always ask that question. Whenever I go to, I'm not even Catholic, but when I go to some event, I always say, does this count for mass?
Oh, does it, I would say, does it count for confession?
Ooh.
Like a confessional talking to you guys.
There we go. That's good. So, you can do your own contritional rites, whatever they may be.
I might do that.
Go forth and shtick no more.
We'll see each other soon. Everything's opening up. I'll share with you quickly. I went to a museum with Tammy recently, and everyone's wearing a mask. And I wanted to share that each time a stranger walked up over to me and stood next to me in front of a masterpiece, I would stare straight ahead, and without looking at them, I would whisper, "The guards leave at 6." So it's happening. Everything's opening up and stuff. And so the New York City scene will be back, and you'll be back drawing those cartoons that take place in those street corners and stuff. So again, thanks so much. I'm going to let you go, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye, Marissa.
Bye-bye.